Hey, y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, I hope you're having a safe and happy holiday season. And we're going to start looking at 2024 by finishing out 2023. It's Pegasus Preview Day at Gulfstream Park on Saturday's card, and they've got a really nice, enticing pick five sequence with some three stakes races that offer some really good value. So let's get into it. So this is the Gulfstream Park late pick five, and it comprises races 7 through 11. And this is to be run on Saturday's card. This is Pegasus preview day, so there are three stakes within this sequence, so it should be a good one. The first leg is race 7. It's an optional claimer at 25,000 for non-winners at 2 lifetime. Run at 5 furlongs on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. And this is an interesting race in that I think the two most logical candidates both want to do the same thing and run on the front end. Cruisin' Man is running for Rohan Crichton, and when he reaches out for Rod Ortiz, they win at 44%, 75% in the money. That's on the whole. Now, for turf sprints, it's only 25%, I think, but you say only in comparison to 44. But I think that's a pretty good indication this one is going to run a good race. Coming off a career high effort in the last second off the layoff is a good angle for Rohan Crichton. This one is a good class fit, and I think makes sense here. However, Rishi hasn't run since July, but was running in better up at Saratoga and ran a solid race in the last, which was a key race. So Sua Summer won it, didn't do too well at Santa Anita on the day after Christmas, but needless to say, it was a key race. And so the other thing I like the most is Rishi's end fraction is better than Cruisin' Man's. So if they do lock horns, it's a good bet that Rishi might be able to hang in there a little longer. And at 7-2, the value is certainly better. Alad Lassi has never run on turf, but is coming in route to sprint, which is an angle I always love. I do wonder about this one's top end, but at 3 years old, there's certainly room for improvement. And this might be the kind of race, if you get a speed duel and a pace breakdown, this horse might be sitting just off him. And if it's agreeable to the turf, the pedigree is okay for turf. Wouldn't say it's great. And I believe Mishawish is 8% first time off. But again, this is a surface switch, room for improvement, going to shorter. There's a good possibility this one will have a good race. And then we're going to throw in Famous Gent. The one issue I have is this one's coming off a career-high Brisnet speed figure off the layoff on synthetic at 5 years old. And ordinarily, if he was 3 years old, I'd be pretty excited. But at 5, usually a lot of times when they run a figure that big, there's usually a regression afterwards. However, this one does certainly have the back class to be competitive here, and you are getting good value at 6-1. And so I think we can throw Famous Gent in here. Does have a good end fraction and probably won't be too terribly deep in the field. So if there's a pace meltdown or Famous Gent could definitely benefit it at 6-1. You're getting good value. Immortalization looks kind of tantalizing at 10-1, but really my issue with this horse is Brad Cox couldn't get anything out of, Norm Cassie couldn't get anything out of, and while his current trainer is very good with first time with the team. That's 3 bites at the apple with 3 really good trainers, and nobody could get the most out of them. So it's kind of questionable to me that this one would all of a sudden find resurrection. However, at 10-1, it's worth a shot if you want to play there. But I think Rishi to me looks pretty good. But I think this is a fairly wide open race. Due to the shape of it. So there's a couple of different ways to go. Leg 2 is the 8th race, the Sewanee River Stakes. It's a grade 3 run at a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And this is a good race. And as you can see from the left-hand column, we've got a lot of horses who like to be up on the lead or near it. So I think that makes for a very contentious race. And there's a lot of ways to go here. I've narrowed it down to these 5 that I think are the most likely to be contenders here. Saffron Moon comes out of the Cardinal, and it was her first test at a graded stakes, and I think she met it, ran a good race. But what was troubling was she had no answer whatsoever for Star Fortress. Nobody did in that field. And more to the point, I just couldn't get real excited about the way she finished the race. She did beat everybody else, that's true. But, just didn't have that real big acceleration, that big kick that you want to see. So I think Saffron Moon is probably an underlay in here because of Chad Brown and Tyler Gaffalione. We all know their record, but I think is certainly one with a move forward could contend in this race. And with those connections, it's highly possible. So Saffron Moon probably going to be an underlay again, but I think is a good fit here. Full Count Felicia has a ton of back class and has run a lot of key races against a lot of good competition. So you have to like that going into a field like this that's pretty deep in contenders. I think the last race she showed some pretty good kick, albeit it was getting going a little late. But I think that this one can factor in this race on her best day, and I think that's certainly possible in this race. Accomplished Girl is one that's getting progressively better with every single race. Safi Joseph is very good with the first route, and I see this one as progressing and one that with another step forward, which looks highly possible, could factor in this race. And at 10 to 1, I think you're getting very good value. I'm going to guess probably going to sit a little bit more off the pace than some of the others. So that may be advantageous if it's highly contested on the front end. That's one thing that you can say about Full Count Felicia, incidentally, is her last race, the pace was pretty drastic. And I think it maybe hindered her chances to win. So maybe that's something to think about, too, if you think the pace is going to be hotly contested. Walkathon Sister Luann, I don't know how hot it really will be, but it is something to think about. Of the contenders, I think Fastest Flight makes the most sense. Brian Lynch is just red hot at Gulfstream right now. He's 33% in his last 18, and he's 50% and 63% in the money with a $12 and change ROI in this scenario. So I think Fastest Flight, the last race, probably needed one coming off the bench. And what was really good to note was seemed to have stalled in the stretch and then got going late. So it was sort of a, shake off the cobwebs type of thing and waking her up. So I think Fastest Flight looks awful good in this spot. And because we have a lot of horses up on the lead, I think a closer probably will have a chance to get into the money and with the right scenario could upset the apple cart. And Messidor looks like one to me at 15 to 1 that could very well get into the mix. I don't know that she necessarily has the top end to win this, but I think is one that likely can get up with a good price to round out your exotic. So we'll throw Messidor in here. But if I have to be narrowed down to one horse, I really like Fastest Flight in this spot. And then maybe as the second choice, Full Count Felicia. The third leg is the ninth race, and it's a $100,000 handicap run at 1 mile and 70 yards on the all-weather track for 3-year-olds and up. And this is a very interesting race. Basically what the question is you have to ask yourself here is how much faith do you have in some of these horses? And the reason I say that is because you've got a couple of older horses like Conglomerate coming into the race after a career high effort at 6 or 7 years old, and you just have to wonder if they can do it again. And generally, the rule of thumb has been you don't ever want an older horse after they run a career high at 5, 6, 7, and upward, because the chances are they aren't going to do it again. And I'm going with that principle when I look at this. You can see from the running lines on the left, there's a fair amount of early pace here. And Volcanic is, just a wind machine, loves to run on synthetic, and also can run at pretty quick fractions and get the job done. But he's going to have a lot of company in this race, in particular from Tiberius Mucurius and Saratoga Flash and County Final, even Fly the W, all want to be up near the lead. So asking a horse to win on the front end in this one, I think, is an extremely tall order. Now, I'll excuse the last race for Volcanic. I think he probably needed one coming off the bench. And at 15 to 1, that's just outstanding value for a horse that is more than proficient on synthetic, but it's a pretty tall order. If I can get 15 to 1, I think you have to use. But I think there's others here maybe coming to this race a little better form, and the shape of it will entitle them to have a little better shot because they're not going to be pressed as much as Volcanic will be early on. Saratoga Flash is one that has been freshened and just ran a career high race. Loves a synthetic, and I think the fact that this one is fresh really is the appeal. 8 to 1 is a great price. I think is a good class fit. Should be sitting just off of the front runners and will have first jump. And again, being in good form and with a freshening, I think are the two biggest appeals to me. So at 8 to 1, I really like Saratoga Flash. Skyro ran a really nice race last time, and Brian Lynch couldn't be hotter at Gulfstream right now. But the only thing I'll say is that was the third off the layoff. So a new form cycle is potentially starting here. So I don't know that we can expect building off of that last effort. So again, horses coming off top efforts, wondering if they can duplicate it or progress further. Skyro to me is a little shaky in that regard, but the barn is going so well right now, I don't think you can exclude. So Skyro is one that you have to keep. Mr. and Mr. C didn't run at all last time. Just didn't do anything against many of the competitors here. But it was off the layoff. I think probably needed a race. And this one was in really good form prior to the layoff. And for a little stretch there, Graded Stakes Company, not this one's thing on turf. We found that out. But back on synthetic is a more favorable surface. Second off the layoff, Mike Maker. At 8 to 1, I think you're getting good value, and I expect this one to rebound where a lot of the others I think may be regressing from prior top efforts. Public Sector is another one. Safi Joseph has outstanding credentials, first with the team, and this one has probably, Chad Brown may have been aiming a little high with this one. Graded Stakes, he did okay, but never could get over the hump. You're getting back in a more favorable environment here, class-wise. This one, I think, is, with Safi Joseph's record amongst first-timers, I think you have to like this one's chances, particularly when you consider all the early pace that we have in this race. And at 15 to 1, you're getting outstanding value. Now, Conglomerate would look pretty good in this race, and I kind of go either way with him. The main problem I have is that he just ran his career best race in a really good Grade 3 stakes race in the Valedictory. That was an outstanding field. There were some very good performers in there. And he took advantage of the pace scenario and got a dream trip, and, he won the race and did so in very impressive fashion. He's an outstanding competitor. He's got an excellent record overall. I just wonder about at 6 years old being able to do that again. Does he necessarily have to run that big a race to win this? No, but the chances are I think he probably is going to regress a little bit. So if he beats me or he wins, he beats me, I just going to take a chance and say that he's not going to do it. And then just to mention, Dreams of Tomorrow, if I don't think is a win candidate here, but seems to always end up in the money. So a 12 to 1, more for the bottom of your exotics, I think. To me, Saratoga Flash looks pretty good in this spot. I think this is a bit of a spread race, but I think you can get some good value to be sure. And Mr. and Mr. C and Public Sector, I think, offer it. Leg 4 is the 10th race, and it's the Harlan's Holiday Stakes, a Grade 3 run at a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds and up. And this is a tricky one. There's no question about it. We don't have a true front runner in here, so it's up to conjecture who, in fact, will get the lead. We do have a little bit of speed to the inside, and perhaps Grand Aspen or maybe even Blue Devil, who did run up near the lead in the past. But kind of hard to figure out who's going to get it. New York Traffic might be a pretty good possibility to get the lead, being in the 2-hole. This one has been running in sprints of late, but we know back from a couple of years ago that he can get 2 turns. He's he's always a bit of a sentimental favorite of mine. I always loved his grit. He always fought real hard. You just have to wonder why they haven't brought him around 2 turns lately, and that's really the big issue I have with him. Coming back on a track that he's familiar with and has won on. And, you have to remember the race shape, the configuration of the track here. They pretty much encounter a turn right away. So horses to the inside do have a little bit of an advantage. So I think New York Traffic has a lot of things working for him. He'll have to raise his game a little bit, but I think he can do so. And I think at 6-1, that offers some really nice value. WH&L, kind of hard to figure out. He looks pretty good at 2, and then all of a sudden at 3, they put him back on the Derby trail. Had a terrible Sam Davis. I mean, it wasn't necessarily his fault. Had all kinds of traffic issues, and but has come back and run pretty well. I don't know what he really beat last time, and he did have a perfect trip. But being on the rail, he should be able to get to where he wants to. And then it's a question of whether he's good enough at 8-1 in this field. I think he's worth a gander. Blue Devil I think they need to get this one more forwardly placed than he has been running at. And if so, I think that he has as good a chance as any in here. He's proven in the past that he can jack it up in graded stakes, and he'll need to do so. I do wonder about his form a little bit, but I think given where he is and given the shape of this race, he's got a shot to factor in here. Signator is a classic Shug McGahee. He's just getting a little better, getting a little better, getting a little better. And I think he's poised at 3, the lone 3-year-old in here. Awful classy horse. He's just taking a little time with him. Don't forget, at 2 years old, a lot of people were pretty excited about this one for the Derby, but it's taken a little time. But I think his last race showed that he is poised and ready to make that step up to the next level. I don't like the race shape for him here necessarily. I think early speed probably has a bit of an advantage. But if there is any kind of meltdown in the 5-hole, he should be able to get just off the pace. And then it'll be a question of whether he's good enough. And at 8-1, I think he offers a very good price. Still Sunshine didn't beat a whole lot in the last race, but he did so showing some good class and some good progression. Bobby DeBona, while having a nice meet so far, is 1-12 off the bench. So we do have to wonder about that. Plus, he's parked in the 10-hole. So that's tactically, he's at a really big disadvantage with the race shape. However, I think he's good enough to get into the money. And so 15-1, good value, but I would think of him more for bottom of the exotics. O'Connor is, this horse had a whole lot of ballyhoo coming into Gulfstream last year from South America. And he had a great race, and then everybody was all excited about him, and he really just hasn't done it, to my opinion. He's had some decent efforts. The last race in the Fayette at Keeneland, he closed into the pace, and he had to fight off a couple in the stretch, and it was a really big effort. But he is 6 years old, so he is coming off the bench, but this isn't a track that necessarily favors late runners, and he's coming off a really big effort. So I do have some concerns about him closing this one out. There's a lot of horses in here who have hair on them. There's question marks for quite a few. So I think there's a lot of ways to go, but I've just looked at the horses to me that look like they can that they can raise their game to take this one down. If you had to pin me down on one, I'd probably say New York Traffic. I kind of looks pretty good to me. Saffy's having a good meet, and Route to Sprint is a really positive angle for Saffy Joseph. Not so much in graded stakes, but the lone winner he has in Sprint to Route is New York Traffic. So that gives me some hope here. But this is a wild one, and there's a lot of ways to go. Last leg of the late pick 5 is the 11th race. It's the Fort Lauderdale Stakes, a grade 2, running a mile and an eighth on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. And this just looks like a grab bag, lost and found kind of field to me. It's hard to hang your hat on any horse in this race, to be quite honest. It has the look of a race that could easily be wired, but the question is who, really more than anything else. I've settled on Stone Age only because we have some back class, and the last couple of races were tactically against Stone Age, but this one coming in fresh might be more to his liking. He'll be up near the pace. I don't think Main Event or Running B. I don't know why Running B is favored, by the way. I can't figure that out for the life of me whatsoever. But in any event, we go with what we have. And I just don't like any of the other horses up near the lead, except maybe Stone Age because of the back class. The other horses in the race who would be contenders all kind of come from way back, and they usually have too much to do. And you'll see asterisks by Marwad and Red Run, and that's primarily the reason for it. Is just they usually run at longer distances. And in Red Run's case, he tends to be a little more one-paced. I don't know that he's going to be able to get up in time to take this one down, particularly when I think the pace will be relatively slow. Fort Washington has shown in his last race that they are trying to get him more into the race early, and I think that's important if he can get back to what he did in the last race, running more as of a stalking trip as opposed to a closing trip. I think then he makes a lot of sense in here. Grand Sonata in particular, for me, I think this is the kind of race that Grand Sonata should win, or that's it. It's kind of a now or never. This horse is hinted at ability on occasion, and this just looks like the kind of field that Grand Sonata should take down. I'll be honest, it's hard to get a really solid opinion on this race. It seems to have two extremes. It has horses up on the lead or ones from way back, and nobody really in between. So those are the 5 that I've settled on. I would say the primary win candidates would be Grand Sonata, Stone Age, and Fort Washington. I think Stone Age tactically has a little bit of an edge, but Grand Sonata showed me enough in the last race, had to deal with a lot of traffic and still kept on. So maybe Grand Sonata is the one that you think about as the primary win candidate. And again, Running B, I just don't see it at all. I just can't make a case for him other than he's trained by Chad Brown. Aside from that, not much else. So this race, have fun with it. I'm going to. But I think the 2, the 6, and the 7 are the ones I'm going to settle on for the sequence. So here's what our ticket looks like, and again, this is a tricky sequence. There's some funky races in it, but we're going to take our stand and hope it works out. Leg 7 or leg 1, race 7, we're going to use 4, 6, and 8. Leg 9. Race 8, leg 2, we're going to use 4 and 9. I think that one's probably the most likely, logical. Leg 3, race 9, we're going to use 2, 6, 8, and 12. Leg 4, race 10, we're going to use 1, 2, and 5. And I think New York Traffic, to me, makes the most sense, leaning towards the 2. If I was thinking about a single, maybe that's the one you go with, but it's a tough race to do that. And then leg 5, race 11, we're going to use 2, 6, and 7. So 3 times 2 times 4 times 3 times 3, that's $216. So it's $108 on a 50-cent base. And this one will pay if we can bring it down. So let's hope for ringing the new year with a nice payout. So that's the late pick five. I think there's some really good value to be had, and that Harlan's Holiday Stakes looks to be awfully contentious. A lot of different ways to go. Hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. And if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe, and we thank you all for coming on board. We're going to have some more postings with regards to Santa Anita's got some stakes races on Saturday. So we'll want to pay attention to that. So be on the lookout for postings from us. And that's it from here. So I'll just wish you all a happy new year. Make it a safe one. And I'll talk to you soon. And until then, be well.